Welcome to my channel, Real Mission Stories. Where courage is not imagined, it's lived. Where sacrifice is not spoken, but felt. And where the human spirit proves time and again that no force on earth can break it. If you believe in destiny, in warriors who rise when everything falls apart, then stay with me until the end of this story. Because what you're about to hear isn't just a mission, it's a heartbeat of honor, pain, an unshakable will. The storm over the Afghan mountains raged like an ancient god that night. Thunder rolled through the narrow valleys, lightning flashed across jagged peaks, and the wind howled with enough fury to tear metal from sky. Cutting through that chaos was a U.S. Army helicopter, call sign Falcon 9, carrying an elite Ranger unit into enemy territory. Their orders were clear but brutal: extract. Captured intelligence officer before the insurgents could move him across the border. The timing was razor thin. Failure wasn't an option. Among that team was Lieutenant Sarah McKinley, the youngest Ranger officer in her battalion. She carried herself with quiet strength, the kind that made even the toughest men in her unit trust her instinct without question. Her eyes, steady beneath her helmet, hid 1,000 silent prayers. Those who knew her said she was carved from calm and self-disciplined, unshakable, and always the last to speak but the first to act. The mission had started smoothly. They flew low through the valleys, engines whispering through the night. Then everything changed in a heartbeat. A flash streaked across the mountain slope, one missile, heat-seeking, fast as death. It hit the tail rotor, and the world erupted in fire and metal. Falcon 9 spun violently, alarms screaming, soldiers shouting over the roar. The pilot fought the controls, shouting, "We're hit. We're going down." Sarah didn't hesitate. She tore off her harness, lunging for the emergency chute packs. There were only 2 sick soldiers on board. No time, no choices that made sense. Fire spread along the floor, eating through hydraulic lines. The helicopter tilted, falling faster. Smoke filled the cabin. Through the chaos, the pilot yelled an order no one wanted to hear. Drop anything not breathing. Lighten the load. But Sarah saw the truth. It wasn't weight that would save them. It was luck, and they had none left. Through the open ramp, tracer rounds sliced the air. Enemy fire lit the darkness like a storm of red stars. A grenade exploded near the tail, the blast throwing Sarah against the bulkhead. Pain shot through her ribs. Someone grabbed her arms, Sergeant Haley's voice cracking through the noise. "Go, Lieutenant. We can't all die here." She shouted back, "There's no chute." But his hands didn't stop. In one brutal motion, he pushed her toward the ramp, and then she was gone. The night swallowed her whole. The air tore the scream from her throat. Wind ripped past her face, freezing her skin. She was falling 2,000 feet of nothing below her, the burning wreck above. Her mind sharpened. Fear gave way to focus. She flattened her body, arms spread, using the air itself to slow her descent. Her training took over control, the fall, find cover, survive. Through flickering night vision goggles, she saw the ground approaching: dark forest, sharp ridges, snow-covered death. She angled her body toward the trees. If she hit the ground, she'd die instantly. If she hit the trees, maybe she'd break enough branches before the ground broke her. The treetops hit like whips of steel. Branches snapped her ribs, shredded her gear. Pain was everywhere. She crashed through the canopy, bounced off frozen limbs, and slammed into the snow below, rolling until her body struck a fallen log. Then silence. Only the hiss of wind and her ragged breathing. For a long moment, she lay still, barely conscious. Blood filled her mouth. Her arm was twisted, her ribs screaming. She looked up at the sky, cold, infinite, uncaring, and whispered through broken breath, "Rangers, lead the way." Hours crawled by. The wreckage burned somewhere above the ridge. Then she heard its engines. Enemy trucks grinding through the snow, voices shouting in a language she didn't understand but knew too well. They were searching for survivors. Sarah pressed herself against the frozen ground, pain flaring with every breath. She heard laughter, gunfire, and then silence. They were checking bodies. From their tone, she realized the others were gone. Falcon 9 was finished. But her mission wasn't. With a dislocated shoulder and 2 shattered ribs, she began to crawl toward the wreckage. Every inch was agony. The snow burned her skin, the cold creeping into her bones. Halfway up the ridge, she saw movements someone still alive, trapped under the twisted frame of the helicopter. It was Sergeant Daniels. His face pale, his voice barely a whisper. "Sarah, I thought you were gone." She forced a weak smile. "So did I, but Rangers don't die that easy." With her good arm, she pulled debris off him, ignoring the tearing pain that made her vision blur. Together they dragged themselves behind the wreck's smoldering remains. The night felt endless. They huddled in silence, listening to the wind and the distant shouts of the enemy. When dawn began to rise, the landscape was a graveyard of smoke and snow. Sarah knew rescue wouldn't come unless she made it happen. She scavenged what she could: broken wires, a flare tube, half a battery. Using torn fabric and part of a shattered weapon casing, she built a crude signal fire. Then she tied her ranger patch to a stick, planted it upright. A silent message to the heavens. We're still here. Hours passed. No sound, no aircraft. Daniels drifted in and out of consciousness. She could see the color draining from his face. She knew time was running out. Then an idea sparked. Treacherous, desperate, but it was all she had. She tore apart the radio, rewired the transmitter using the live battery and the helicopter's broken antenna. Sparks flickered. The device hummed weakly. It might work, or it might broadcast a beacon straight to the enemy. She pressed the button anyway. "This is Lieutenant Sarah McKinley, U.S. Army Rangers. Falcon 9 down. 2 survivors. Request immediate extraction grid coordinates." Static, then silence. Before she could try again, she heard the unmistakable rumble of trucks. Enemy vehicles. They'd heard her signal. She turned to Daniels. "They're coming. You stay here. I'll draw them off." His hand grabbed hers, weak but pleading. "You won't make it." She smiled faintly, tears freezing on her cheeks. "I already did." She moved into the trees, rifle in hand, every step a scream of pain. The forest erupted behind her, voices shouting, gunfire cracking. The first bullet grazed her arm. She dropped, rolled, fired back. 2 men fell. Another charged her. She swung the rifle like a club, smashing his jaw. The fight was primal: snow, blood, breath, fury. She was outnumbered, but not out of courage. A shot hit her side. She stumbled, fell to one knee, still firing. Then above the treetops, deep rumble. Helicopters. American ones. Her signal had reached them. The forest exploded in light. Ropes dropped. Rangers descended like shadows. Gunfire roared. The enemy scattered. Sarah collapsed in the snow, vision fading. But when the rescue team reached her, she managed a weak salute. "Lieutenant McKinley." One shouted. She nodded faintly. "You did good, ma'am. We got you." As they lifted her onto the stretcher, she whispered through cracked lips, "I didn't survive because I'm lucky. I survived because Rangers never fall alone." 3 months later, under the clear skies of Arlington, Sarah McKinley stood in full dress uniform. The scars still ached when she breathed, but her spirit stood taller than ever. The president himself pinned the silver star to her chest. "For extraordinary bravery under fire," he said, "and for proving that true warriors don't fall, they rise." The crowd stood, silent at first, then applauding. Veterans saluted. Families wept. Sarah searched the faces until she saw Daniels alive, walking with a cane, smiling proudly. When the ceremony ended, a reporter stepped forward. "Lieutenant, how did you survive that fall without a parachute?" She paused, eyes glistening, and smiled softly. "When you're a ranger, your heart is your parachute. It never lets you hit the ground." She turned toward the memorial wall, the wind lifting her hair, and added quietly, "If you ever find yourself falling in life, in fear, in despair, remember this story? Because heroes aren't born in comfort. They're forged in the fall. So the next time you hear thunder, or see the flash of lightning across a dark sky, think of Falcon 9 and the ranger who fell. Not because she sought glory, but because she refused to stay down. Courage doesn't need wings to fly, just needs a heart that won't quit. Thank you for watching Real Mission Stories. If this story moved you, like, comment, and subscribe. Because there are heroes out, there are real ones whose names the world must never forget.